Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, somehow game over feels good in a place like this. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as I am always joined, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. Mark, how's it going?
It's going great. I feel like we have a lot to get into.
We do have a lot to
today.
get into, so do you want to not screw around up top like we normally do?
I mean, look, I can talk about how I can't leave the house without putting like 5
So
Kleenexes
we've
in
got Patreon now. If you'd like to support us there, patreon.com/Nintendo Cartridge Society. I had to leave with a bunch of there was like a little thing on my neck that I've picked off and it started bleeding.
Gross.
Thank you. We have a Patreon. If you would like to support us over there, you can. And if you support us at the 8-bit or 16-bit tiers, you get access to a fun show that we're doing called the NCS Detective Club, where we are watching the great detective shows of television history. Mark, we've got a new episode coming out tomorrow.
That's right. We're going to be talking about Psych, a show that neither of us had seen before. There's actually a few of these that we have covered in NCS Detective Club that we've never
That's
seen
true.
before.
But I feel like Psych is the one that we had like the least even impression of.
Yeah,
like
totally.
We had never seen its shadow cast on a cave wall, right?
That's right.
We had only heard about it in whispers. It was like Sauron at the beginning of the Third Age, right? But now we know all about it. And we've got all kinds of theories about why the show is the way it is. But so check that out if you are a patron or if you are interested. You can become one and listen to the show.
Thank you so much to all of our patrons for supporting, and thank you for listening, even if you're not a patron. We really appreciate it.
And another thing that you can do, patron or no, is you can get in our Discord, where we are always having conversations about what's going on in the world of Nintendo. Send us an email, nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com, and we will send you an invitation to that Discord, and the conversation can just keep going on and on and on. Mark, we saw the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Oh, yeah, we did.
Which means we need to talk about it. Let's get into the main topic here. Let's do it. Okay, so first off, I just want to say we will take a little time here to discuss the movie without spoiling it, such as it is. So if you are just sort of like, if you haven't seen the movie yet and you're just sort of like looking for our impressions, where we are on it, how we feel about it generally, we'll have a couple minutes of that here. And then we will, Mark, I'll play a little music.
Wow.
And then we'll go full, I mean, like, I'm going to make the computer do it. I'm not going to pull out a guitar.
Oh. Well,
Sorry.
Still cool, but less impressive.
You know, I looked up sheet music for the end credits music from Super Mario 64 today. You know that? Do you know that music that I'm?
No, not off the top of my head.
It's so like chill and like laid back, and it's got this like ba-da-da-da-da. Anyway, I looked it up. I'm gonna learn how to play it on the piano.
That'd be amazing.
And we're gonna have a great time with that. But all of which is to say that for right now, we are not spoiling the Chris Pratt, Charlie Day film, the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Yeah, we're just
but we
gonna be
will.
talking. Yes, we will, and there will be warning.
Yes, there will be full warning that is going to happen. But so, Mark, overview. Do we want to say like how we felt about the movie, or do you want to like kind of dig into our specific experience at the theater?
Yeah, I feel like we should at least note. That we should that you did your duty and got the AMC exclusive.
Yes,
Super Mario Brothers movie popcorn tin.
It is it is tin. Truly, it is tin. It is shaped like a question block. It does kind of like taper a little bit, so it's not like a pure cube. But it is a nice little piece of popcorn kit, right? Like I'm going to eat popcorn out of that, I think, for a while.
Do you think that the reason, and I know we're not doing this podcast to talk about the tin, but
I think the podcast is about the tin now.
Do you think that it is tapered, like because there's like popcorn science behind it. You know, like it's easier to grab because you need those angles. Like,
right.
You know, because AMC has at least 100 years of experience selling popcorn in movie theaters.
No, so I would guess that it is a logistics question. If they are tapered, you can stack them on top of each other.
Yes.
If they are pure cubes, you can't put one inside the other. They would just have to be stacked up.
I bet you're right.
that is almost certainly what's happening here. The tin, which comes full of popcorn, which I ate maybe I don't know 20% of. I ate very little of this popcorn. The tin costs $15, and that was with it being full of popcorn. So it was the cost of the popcorn was probably like $8-9 anyway. So I maybe paid $6 for that thing.
I mean, we like the tin. What can
we
say?
We like the tin. And it's like it's raised and like the question mark on the block is nicely raised, and it's all it's nice. I'm glad that I picked that thing up.
Now let's talk about the movie
itself. Now let's talk about the movie itself.
So, I will say that my overall impressions were that I did not particularly like it. But I don't think it's a bad movie. I don't hate it, but it just didn't work for me. I am, however, incredibly fascinated by this movie.
I think we are buddies on this one. I think we are 100% in sync. I maybe disliked it a little more than you did. I think it is possible that it's a bad movie, because it seems like it's not its only trick, but certainly the one that it uses the most is counting on you to recognize what it's doing. That it is a sort of empty, reference heavy visual thing. Like it's hard for me to even like call it a story, right? That like you're just meant to see something or hear something that you recognize and laugh or applaud or whatever.
Well, one thing that's really interesting, and when this movie was announced many years ago at this point, and we learned that it was in collaboration with Illumination Entertainment, I think your somebody's enjoyment of this movie not entirely predicated on your experience with other Illumination movies and how you feel about their style of film, but I think one thing that really surprised me about this experience is that I think it feels 99% like an Illumination movie, maybe even 100%. It does not feel in a way that really surprised me. It doesn't feel like a Nintendo product to me.
Oh,
and
that's interesting.
And I know that it is, and that Shigeru Miyamoto obviously was, I mean, as far as we can tell, heavily involved in it. And this is the Mario movie that they wanted to make.
Yeah.
But it doesn't come across to me as that surprises me after seeing it. I am a little bit surprised that this is in Miyamoto's vision, because as far as we know, this is the case. I'm surprised that this is the vision, his kind of vision for what a Super Mario Brothers movie would be. That kind of surprises me.
Yeah, and that doesn't necessarily speak to quality of jokes or anything like that, but just sort of it is interesting how much the characters don't seem to be affected by anything, and any conflict in the movie. There's the one big conflict: Bowser wants to marry Peach, but then there's no other lasting conflict between anyone. There is a moment where Mario and Donkey Kong are on the same side. I don't think that's a spoiler. And Donkey Kong kind of ribs Mario for a second, he makes fun of him. And then Mario's like, "No, geez," and then Donkey Kong's like, "No, it's all right, just kidding." And it's there's no dimensionality to the characters for them to have enough surface to have friction between them.
Yeah, totally. And so the movie is just consistently a lot of jokes or dialogue or moments where characters have an interaction, and this is not a quote from the movie, just a terrible example of what I feel like a lot of the interactions in this movie are like, where it's like, oh, Mark, I really like your sweater. Really? No.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
And that's what I found.
Also, just a lot of separate reelies in there as well. Yeah,
and that's kind of what I found really surprising to me is like I think visually, like I don't really have any complaints.
Yeah.
You know, like the grand kind of like overarching story. If you pitched me on this is the story for this movie, yeah, totally makes complete sense to me that this is like what a Super Mario Brothers movie would be. What really surprises me, and the part that I feel like it makes it feel like not a Nintendo product, is how snarky it is.
Yeah.
And how it really to me lacks any like I don't and
it's snarky without being like mean though.
It's not mean.
Yeah.
You're right. It's because there's not enough dimensionality to any of like there's not enough dimensions to any of the characters for anything that's being said or done to really like affect them on an emotional level. But it the movie lacks an emotional core, and that like that really surprises me, and I don't know why. It's not like you and I talked about this before the movie came out, and I mean it's your point that I'm going to regurgitate.
Yeah, please.
But it's basically
I love hearing my own points.
But it's basically that like the Mario characters as they exist in games, like they are avatars for play,
right?
And they do, and so I feel like one of the challenges that this movie was going to have from the very beginning, and I would say that it does not it does not successfully pass over this bar, is giving the characters growth.
Yeah.
Giving the characters like an arc. Like all the characters are fully formed.
When they start.
They start.
No one is changed by the journey.
No one, and there are instances in other movies where that's not the end of the world. Like The Little Mermaid is an example. Like Ariel doesn't really change in the movie,
right.
But King Triton does.
Yeah.
Right? So like even though King Triton isn't our point of view character, it's still like in a way it is King Triton's story. He's the one who needs to grow and change, and he does.
Right. Well, and like the Ant-Man movies are notorious for this as well, that the Scott Lang, the Paul Rudd character, is like unflappable in all of these movies, but you have to look towards like the sort of ancillary characters for where there actually are arcs, because if no one changes in a movie, it's like it either becomes like not a story or some like Dadaist Coen Brothers product, which I don't think the Super Mario Brothers movie was going for.
No, and I will say there's one character who I think does change, but to talk about it would be a spoiler, so we'll have to do it later in it. But I mean, but yeah, Mario fully formed, knows exactly what he wants, does not have to grow or change. Mm-hmm. Princess Peach, from the beginning is an unflappable character, does not have to grow or change. So I feel like that's one piece of it, and then the other piece of it is that there is also like a surprising lack of connection between the characters.
Yes,
like I feel like Toad is intended to be like an Olaf from Frozen type character, but the difference is that like Olaf has like emotions. Is basically like a toddler, and like learns the way a toddler learns, but feels sadness, feels like joy.
Right, is overly literal, like, which by the way, we saw this in the Dungeons and Dragons movie, which we saw last weekend. But I think Hollywood is going through. It's been like a decade of like loving an overly literal character, like Michelle Rodriguez's character in Dungeons and Dragons, or like Dave Bautista in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. And Olaf fits right into that mold, where like you say something to him and he's just like, he takes it as like literal truth. Yeah, so just like another dimension to that character that doesn't seem present in Toad.
Yeah, and so it's like, and so because of that, there's no connection between like Toad and Mario. Mm-hmm. Toad is like his sidekick, and he makes jokes about Mario being like his best friend. And it's supposed to be funny because I actually don't know
met.
why. Yeah, I guess.
I think it's supposed to be funny because they just met. But like it should be funny because Mario doesn't need him, or because Mario has rejected him, or because he thinks Mario is cool. But like when he meets Mario and he's like talking him up, he's like not seen him do anything.
No, and they have no moment of there's no moment of like connection.
Yeah.
And that's
right.
true, I feel like, for all of the
Everyone.
characters in this movie, except maybe with the exception of Mario and Luigi. And
I actually thought that Mario and Luigi, there's like a twist to it that we'll talk about, I think, in the spoiler-filled section. But I thought their relationship was actually pretty sweet.
No, totally. I think so too. And I feel like that is the one piece that, and here's what's so interesting is like, I don't know Shigeru Miyamoto. I don't know what kind of movies he likes.
Sure.
I don't know what kind of stories he likes to tell. I don't know any of that stuff, right?
Right.
And so again, maybe this is the fulfillment of his vision for what a Mario and like a Super Mario Brothers movie would be. But for me, and I think of Nintendo games, even though they don't have a lot of story, they have a lot of like heart and are about shared connection, and that I feel like that is like
that's interesting.
I feel like that's like kind of like Nintendo's. Not that the stories are about direct connection or anything, but I just feel like that's like what they try to engender through their products.
Right. There's a warmth to the games that doesn't really seem to be present in this movie. But like it's tricky though, because I do think that there is how did you describe I said it was that, but it wasn't mean. What is the word that you used to describe the movie that's like glib?
I can't remember.
It was something like that. But like or like insincere. I don't know. But like there is an element of like little stinkeriness to the original Super Mario Brothers game, and like a lot of Nintendo products where like it's funny that like there's a hidden block there and you hit it and you fall in the pit and you do like a lot of the deaths are played as like kind of punchlines to here's how we tricked you into dying, right? And even having the Goombas and the mushrooms look kind of like like they're all like little jokes. And so I wonder if like some of that like mean-spirited joking is also like, and again, not that the movie was mean-spirited, but just that it felt very like disconnected or like almost ironic towards itself.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where I feel like that going back to what I was saying at the beginning, where it's like if you connect with Illumination Entertainment movies, then I don't again, on a high level, I don't think there's anything wrong with the Super Mario Brothers movie. Like, but I actually think the first Despicable Me movie does a good job of what we're talking about like
I like that first Despicable Me. Yeah.
But I feel like
Gru has an obvious arc.
Yeah.
He has to change.
But
he has to go from being a supervillain to loving these three kids.
Yeah, so I feel like it really is just like a matter of like taste, and this just to me is not, it just wasn't to my taste.
Yeah, there was a trailer for a movie called Migration, but before this movie, and it's the new Illumination movie, and it's about ducks and they're migrating. But we see maybe like 30 seconds of footage from this duck movie, and it's preceded by a minute and a half of like from the studio that brought you all these other Illumination movies. And my thought was like, don't show me all that other stuff. Just present the movie to me, and maybe you'll trick me into thinking it's not an Illumination movie, But again, maybe this is just me having that baggage about this studio and not liking the way that they approach story and character.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like their kind of like house style is that inherent like kind of like snark. And it just
there's it's funny because like I think snark probably was the word that you used before, and I feel like there's something just like a little, because it's not like snark is so like DreamWorksy, right?
No, you're
and
right.
It's not
like,
quite that.
No, it's insincerity, or like it's not sarcasm. It's so hard to pinpoint. The way I was thinking about it is like because before the movie, before even the trailers, there were like a couple of commercials.
Yeah.
And all like I feel like all commercials today are really similar. They have a very similar attitude, whereas like everything is really jokey. Nobody says anything like kind to each other.
No one is vulnerable.
Yeah. You know, it's all just kind of like, oh, like, way to go, my bozo dad.
Yes.
We got to get Glad bags because you can't pour pasta sauce. You know, like that sort of thing. And that's what I feel like this movie was just like that for 90 minutes.
Yes. I mean, a very colorful version of that for 90 minutes with a lot of music and references that like you'll be able to pick up on if you've played Mario games, if you played Luigi's Mansion, if you've played the Donkey Kong games, if you've played Mario Kart. Like there are, and the list goes on and on and on and on. But I don't know. At this point, should we move into spoilers? Because I think there are like specific things that we want to call out and like dig into more.
Yes. Yeah. Let's go do it.
I mean, do you have any
no. The stuff I want
to
talk about is it all kind of veers into spoiler territory.
All right, here we go. From here on out, it's all spoilers, baby. So just as long as we are on the subject of like references and stuff, and like other video games that get visual shout outs, you know, there's an R-wing in Mario's room, so we get some Star Fox there.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, it's sitting on top of his TV. The Punch-Out Pizzeria, where they have like a little run-in with Spike at the beginning. There are like all of the Punch-Out characters.
I mean, Spike is
from Wrecking Crew.
From Wrecking Crew, works for a construction company, I guess, called Wrecking Crew. Like it's all over his like van and outfit and everything.
Right, and the Mario Brothers used to work for him, but now they're starting their plumbing business. But the Mario at one point is sitting on his bed playing Kid Icarus, and like previously, like just a couple minutes earlier in the arcade, they're sitting next to what is effectively a Donkey Kong machine called Jumpman, and a Charles Martinet voiced Mario is like hanging out there playing the game too. So like it feels as though they live in a world where Nintendo and Donkey Kong and Super Mario Brothers as video games exists.
What
I'm going too deep into like the like mind bendiness of this, but like they're in a world where Nintendo exists.
Or yeah. I mean, I guess that's true. I mean, Kid Icarus. Yeah, no, that's definitely true. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Based on like Mario's room, his bedroom, and seemingly he lives with his parents. And
we meet the whole Mario Brothers family.
We do. But how old do you think Mario and Luigi are supposed to be in this movie?
Boy, that's a great question. Unclear, I think.
Because they're old enough to own a business.
Right.
And it's
kids can own a business, though.
It's completely possible that
they're old enough to drive.
that like Mario is in his childhood bedroom, and so it just hasn't been changed since like the 80s or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But my guess is they're supposed to be 20?
Or like 24.
Sure, 24, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're young.
Yeah.
Or at least they feel that way.
But yes. I mean, it's just weird because they're grown men.
They're grown men, but they're small.
Well, it's more that like they're grown men, but like they are supposed to be, you know, like for the kids in the audience, they're like the point of view characters.
Yeah,
so
that is tricky.
Like, you know, so they are, and this is true for Mario as a character in video games.
Right.
So like they are grown men, but it's not like they act like children. I don't know what my point is.
No,
it's just but like, how old are they?
Their living situation does seem juvenile, despite the fact that they have their own business. That like, it does seem like they live at their parents' house, which, you know, they live in Brooklyn, so like, you know, real estate is expensive.
Sure.
And, you know, they want to help out the family, I guess. It's not clear exactly why they strike out on their own, other than they are good plumbers. Are they good plumbers?
Yeah, so we get a snippet. This is what I'm talking about, where it's like, okay, actually, maybe the Little Mermaid parallels are a little bit here, because Mario's fully formed, like Ariel was fully formed, but Mario has a goal or a dream or something.
He has a dream of having a successful plumbing business.
But his dad is like, why would you quit the good thing that you had going at the like a sure thing at the construction job to start this like company with your brother? And that's kind of the conflict that like the growth is that at the end, you know, after they defeat Bowser, the dad is like, "You did good, son."
Right.
And
but like he didn't do good in business. I don't think they're going to get paid for defeating Bowser. But yeah, it is that whole, I mean, we have to talk about the fact that we have now met Mario's family. And it seems like a pretty big family, right?
Yeah, you got uncles in there, presumably.
You got uncles, maybe cousins,
a grandfather,
maybe other brothers. It's not clear.
Yeah.
But definitely a mother and a father. And the father is just disappointed in Mario and like blames him for whatever failure is going to come Luigi's way. Which is where I do think like the nugget of Mario and Luigi being together and being like, whatever we encounter, we'll encounter it together, and we'll get through it. And if the movie has, or if it's driving towards a single message, it's that like when we're together, we can accomplish anything.
Yeah.
But the movie spends 50 minutes with the characters separated. And during that separation time, we don't really check in on Luigi. He's in a cage for most of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I found that my favorite part being the relationship between Mario and Luigi was not on screen for most of it.
No, there's one moment where like you get a flashback and I actually think it does an effective job of what it's trying to do, which is like show you the connection between the two brothers.
Yes.
It flashes back and you see like baby Mario and baby Luigi like
and it's yes, it's like the models.
It's like the baby characters from the games.
But then they also show like a regular person who's a baby, and it's like it's not fair that they have to look like that.
It just shows like Mario protecting Luigi,
right.
You know, like being that kind of like big brother figure. And I thought that was great, but like you said, like that's really it. You get the movie does a lot of like checking the boxes of things that like movies need to have, like this, where it's like, okay, it needs to have like this like kind of like moral that, you know, this mantra that they're going to repeat, like, you know, if we do it together, we can do anything, like that sort of thing.
Right.
And so we have it at the beginning where they say it. We have this illustration, maybe like 20 minutes later. And then at the very end, you have, you know, them repeating it again. But it just doesn't feel... It feels exactly like that, where they're like, okay, we've done it, like, check the box.
Yeah, we've done it 3 times.
Instead of it actually being, like, integral
that means
story.
We've earned it, right? Yeah, and it's also like I'm not... I don't... Honestly, don't get why they need to work together, because Luigi doesn't do anything.
No. And the one time we see them like do plumbing, it doesn't go very well.
No, in fact,
it's not like because they're unskilled, but
no, but it's because Luigi somehow has enraged this dog, Francis.
Breakout character.
Yeah, breakout character Francis. Yep. We got to get Francis for Smash. We got to get Spike for Smash. And we got to get that Blue Shell, who called himself Blue Shell.
Yeah, that's right.
Even though we will discover next week on our topic episode, it's really called the Spiny Shell.
That's right.
What was my point? What were we getting? Oh, yeah. So like, as they are plumbing, it doesn't go very well. And then when they try to do it a second time, they get sucked into an alternate dimension.
Right.
Where one of them is in mortal danger and the other one gets to like run around with a princess.
I do think that the movie like smartly does not try to over-explain. And I think in some ways that's like a really good thing. Like, they don't try to explain Mario and Luigi's family. They don't try to, like, there's no joke about what their last name, like, there's none of that. I
agree.
There's no explanation for why there's a connection in Brooklyn to the Mushroom Kingdom, like where that
there
came
just
from.
is.
It's just like that doesn't matter. You just like that. It just is what it is.
So contrast that though with the in-depth explanation and demonstration of how power-ups work.
Can I tell you one of my absolute least favorite parts of this movie was that Mario and Luigi, come home from their disaster of a plumbing job, and they're having dinner with their family, and they're being served pasta with mushrooms, and Mario's like, yuck, mushrooms. I don't like mushrooms.
Right.
And then later has to like eat a mushroom, and he's like, mushrooms? I don't like mushrooms. But then he eats it.
Then he eats it anyway.
And then it's like over with.
Right.
It's just like, what?
It's another thing where it's like that is set up as though it is conflict, but it isn't.
No. No, there's no conflict in this movie. There are so many times where it's like, hey, we need to see the king. And then like somebody's like, no. Okay, let's go.
Yeah, exactly. This is a conflict-free movie.
Yeah, it's so bizarre.
It's also I find it weird that they establish this like, oh, you need to eat the power up in order to use it.
Right.
And then I was like, oh, so that's why we don't actually see the super bell when he turns into a cat. It's because we can't watch Mario eat a bell. But like, how funny would that be if he punched it and a bell comes out and he's like, I have to eat this?
Yeah. Also,
and then later in the movie, they're just like tagging leaves and flowers and getting the power from them. So it kind of goes away.
Oh yeah, that's true. You're right. They just touch the fire flowers and like the ice flower.
But the mushrooms you either need to eat or be force fed, as they do with Bowser at the end.
Right. Yeah. Let's talk about Bowser.
Let's talk about Bowser, as performed by Jack Black. He starts the movie and then kind of takes a backseat for a little while. Has distressingly little screen time with Mario. Is not really aware of Mario for the majority of the movie. I think generally Jack Black's performance of him works. And is like fun and funny, especially when he gets to sing his dumb little song.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes.
But can I tell you something that bothered me about Bowser? Is when we are being so explicit about it, the non-consensual issues surrounding him wanting to marry Peach feels weird.
What do you mean? I'm genuinely curious.
So when the he's like, I'm gonna marry he's talking to his troops and he says like, I'm gonna marry the princess, and one of them says like, what if she says no? And it's like, wait a minute, now we're like actually in this area where it's like, what is Bowser's deal? Is he about to sexually assault the princess?
Oh, interesting. I did not read it that way at all.
I just had that moment where I was like, and then just like going into then Mario or Bowser being like jealous of Mario and being like, is he the kind of guy that princesses are attracted to? For whatever reason, like all of that, I was like, it feels too like not dealing with it necessarily, but just like stating it outright. I was like, I don't know that I can. This makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's interesting.
What did you think of Bowser?
Yeah, I thought that he was wasted a little bit, but I thought Jack Black's performance was great, and like you said, his the like opportunity he has to do a little like ditty on the piano, is very fun. It all
a ditty on the piano, not a ditty, because we'll get to Diddy Kong later.
That's right. Hey, I mean, Kong Hive rise up.
Oh yeah, they're all over. Like every single Kong you could want to see is in this movie.
Did you clock a Lanky? I didn't clock a Lanky.
I didn't clock a Lanky,
but
either.
I did, or a Tiny.
Right, but like Chunky is in there.
Chunky's in there.
Dixie.
Swanky.
We got a Cranky Kong, but he called Donkey Kong his son, and I was furious. Donkey Kong Jr. erasure. I actually don't care about this, but they can change their relationships. It doesn't bother me. But yeah, Kong Hive rise up for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, and actually, as long as let's go back to Bowser being wasted. In what ways? Because he's mostly playing off Kamek, right? Is that what you mean by wasted? That he doesn't really get to play off the other? Like we don't.
I think it goes back to what you were saying, where like he doesn't really get to interact with Mario. Mario is important to the events, but nobody like the world does not care about Mario.
Right.
Right? Like the action of the movie is like the driving force is that Bowser wants to marry Princess Peach. And so he has been like taking over all of these territories looking for a superstar, like a power star. And the reason he wants the power star is because he wants to use it as kind of like a threat, like saying like, Peach, like, if you don't marry me, then I'm going to destroy your kingdom.
That's what he says internally. Externally, he says that he got it for her.
Oh, okay, got it.
That's what he says to her at any rate. But then he also says, like, if you marry me, I'll spare your people, and then throws them in cages and is going to dip them into lava.
Well, no, he does that to the, like, Kongs and stuff but, like, the Toads...
The Toads, I guess, are fine.
I guess are presumably going to be fine. So, yeah, so the action is, like, so he's doing that, and so Princess Peach is like, I have to, in order to defend this kingdom, I need to get the Kong army.
Right.
And we will come defend it.
Because the Toads can't defend themselves.
And so Mario's whole thing is kind of just like incidental. He is there because, him and Luigi get sucked into this pipe underneath Brooklyn that shoots them out into not the Mushroom Kingdom, but just kind of like the Mario universe. Because there are many worlds within the Mario universe, kingdoms, I guess. And then when they're traveling to wherever, like through this magical pipe, they get separated, and so Mario's goal is to get like Luigi back, and so Mario's kind of like incidental to this whole thing. There's even this joke where like Princess Peach is like, okay, we're going to
I hated this joke so much.
We're gonna go to the Kong King, kingdom to get the army, and all the Toads are like, "Yay!" And then one of the Toads like, "Who's that guy?" Talking about Mario, and Princess Peach goes, "He doesn't matter." And then everyone
doesn't matter.
And then everyone cheers, and you're like, "Okay, funny." But then later, Princess Peach comes back and is like, Bowser's coming, and Mario is gone. And all the Toads are like, "Oh no!" Like, but they don't care who Mario is.
Yeah, well, there are all of these where it just like jumps to the point where it's like, okay, now I guess they all care about Mario now, or like, everyone is driving go-karts now, or like, there's a point where Mario, or after Mario and Luigi get separated, and Mario tells the Toad that his brother got sucked into like a lava pipe, and he's like, oh no, he's with Bowser now, he's already dead, or whatever, and then a couple minutes later Mario tells Peach that his brother is in the Darklands, and it's like, where'd you get that vocabulary from? And it's just another like jump where it's like, it's easier if he just knows the name of it.
Right. And Mario and Peach's whole deal is like super crazy to me too, because Mario lands in the Mushroom Kingdom, Toad finds him, kind of learns what Mario's deal is, and is like, you got to go talk to the princess. Mario gets into the castle, and Toad's whole cooking thing never comes back, by the way.
He distracts the guards by cooking for them, and not even really distracts them so much as, but it is kind of a distraction. He's it looks like he's gonna try and like fight them to get through the door, and then he just like is making something for them, and Mario sneaks by, but doesn't even seem like he needs to sneak by.
No, he doesn't, because Toad just straight up says like, "What are you waiting for? Go!"
Yeah,
and so Mario runs in there and is. Meets Peach, and Peach is like, oh, you're human, that's weird, and that's their point of connection.
Right.
Although I guess if I was surrounded by Toads all the time,
that's true.
Then, like, if another human showed up,
I'd be like, hey, what's your deal?
Let's
hang out.
Let's hang out. So, fair.
But then she like takes him out back to where she's got the obstacle course set up. We've seen this a bunch in trailers, and she does like one lap through the obstacle course. It's very like girl boss, girl power kind of stuff, and like it lands the touching the flagpole music, that we then get like in a fanfare just a couple minutes later. I really dislike the music in this movie. But and then Mario does like a whole like training course just like over and over again. And then like at the end of it, like you get this kind of joke that you were talking about before, where Mario's like, "I bet you did this on the first try, didn't you?" And she was like, "No, not the first try, no." And then they just like negs him, and he's like, "Yeah, it was the first time. Yeah, you're no good at this."
Yeah. Speaking of the music in this, again, when this was first announced, and we were like, I wonder, like how much of the Illumination formula this is going to follow, and it is just interesting to see the Mario specifics painted over this kind of like Illumination's formula, because we were like, oh, do you think it'll have pop music? And we were really
Mark, let me tell you, it's got so much pop music.
It's an interesting choice, but they very, to me anyways, to my mind, very purposefully, because a lot of the Illumination movies have like modern music. They have,
yes.
like remixes by Tame Impala and like things like that.
Yeah.
And this made a very conscious, to my mind, very conscious choice to choose pop music from the 80s.
Yes. So songs that we hear in this movie include the Beastie Boys' "No Sleep Till Brooklyn," a-ha's "Take on Me," "I Need a Hero," who I forget who the artist is, "Thunderstruck," and "Mr. Blue Sky." Like all songs from the 1980s, right?
Yeah, I think
"No Sleep Till Brooklyn" might be early 90s, but
yeah, I'm not sure. That like 80s 90s cusp.
Yeah.
I feel like, and so I think that was their I think it was a purposeful attempt to make it a little more timeless, I guess I'll say, versus having like a Pharrell song or something like that.
Yeah, totally. And there's no like, I mean, outside of the song that Bowser sings, there's no original song for this movie.
But it felt really, it's another one where like, to my personal taste, I don't feel like it added anything. I don't feel like it.
I agree. I think it took away. I would like to propose as a culture, and this pains me because I love this song, but a moratorium on "Take on Me."
Can I? Okay. Seconded. Can I? But in addition, I think we've got to stop using Mr. Blue Sky in movies.
Yeah,
we've just got to stop doing it for when somebody wakes up for the day.
Yeah, it's
just no more.
The statement has been made,
and I know. Just like every comic book is somebody's first comic book, every movie is somebody's first opportunity to hear Mr. Blue Sky.
Right.
But I just feel like we've got to stop.
Like we've been through it. We don't need it anymore. The thing that pains me most about my "Take on Me" declaration is that I know that it is deeply important to the story of The Last of Us Part 2 and therefore deeply important to the next 2 seasons of The Last of Us, but I will make this sacrifice here and now.
One thing, speaking of No Sleep Till Brooklyn,
yeah.
One thing I thought was kind of interesting is in the beginning, Mario and Luigi are running through Brooklyn, and Luigi's kind of like out of breath and lagging behind, but Mario is basically like parkouring through, like he
and it goes into a side-scrolling mode so that we can see it like a video game.
You even get a little bit of that. There's a lot of repeated jokes in this movie. Like if you love watching Mario get hit and then in a slow motion, like fall back and go
Mamma Mia,
you're gonna love this movie. But because they do the flagpole theme, when Peach goes through the obstacle course, but I feel like they also do a little bit of it in that running sequence when Mario. Because there's like a flagpole, because it's like flagpole golf or something like that.
Yeah, that's right.
And like you get that same sort of ditty, to my mind, anyways. We've only seen the movie once.
Yeah.
But but then later obviously the obstacle course at Peach's Castle is a lot more difficult. But like you see him do it. I don't understand what the point of like that first thing was, to show him being very good at like running, platforming,
yeah,
and then to just have him be like bad at it later.
Yeah. And it makes sense that he would have to grow and like learn, but like I don't know, it's just because the movie is so like light and weightless that it doesn't seem like that cost him anything to learn. And like in the time of the movie, he's there like all night, and that's it. that was enough training. Now he's fine.
Yeah.
Let's also talk about the Super Mario Brothers Super Show rap and the DK rap, both of which also appear in this movie, or at least the hook for the DK rap appears, but not the whole song. So that's part of the Mario and Luigi commercial that we've seen in trailers and like TV spots and stuff before. I actually didn't expect that we were going to see that in this movie.
I didn't either. I thought it was maybe just for the Super Bowl trailer, but it is. It's really early in the movie.
It's sort of how the Mario part of it starts. And it's all like a joke that like they made this thing and it's bad and is part of what Spike teases them about and part of what Mr. Mario teases them about.
And like their family is like,
that's
like,
what I meant by Mr. Mario.
Oh, okay, got
His
it.
dad. I don't know what we call that character. Mario's father.
Please call me Mario. Mr. Mario was my father.
And then the DK rap, just as Donkey Kong is coming out, there's like the beat and the like DK Donkey Kong, but never get to the part where like they're finally here performing for you. If you know the words, you can join in too. I saw Grant Kirkhope on Twitter earlier today. Lamenting the fact that his name isn't in the credits.
I noticed that and was really surprised. Like, I don't understand why.
Because it just says DK rap from Donkey Kong 64.
Yeah.
Like, he should have a songwriter credit on that.
Yeah. I wonder if it's, like a, like legalese thing where it's like, okay,
I bet it means they didn't have to pay him.
Oh, I'm sure. It was like it was probably part of like the contract that he did for that. Like they owned the rights. He was a contractor who wrote it, and I'm sure like video games are not covered, or my guess anyway is that like maybe even I don't know what it would be like today, but at that time like
someone get ASCAP on the phone.
Yeah, and like songs that are like were written for like video games are not covered under the same music license as the other stuff.
Yeah, I mean I would think that's.
But yeah, I was so surprised.
But it's like why not put his name in there and why not pay him? You don't need Take On Me. That's an expensive music cue.
I mean, it's not that expensive.
Take On Me? I bet that's a very expensive music cue. So? Yeah. I mean, or the reason that we see it in everything is that it's not that expensive. But Mr. Blue Sky, Thunderstruck, I Need a Hero, like those are these are big songs. These aren't like obscure in any way. I guess a little more obscure. They do drop that music from Kill Bill called it's the Battle Without Honor or Humanity is the name of the track. But they drop it early in the movie as like the penguins are gearing up to battle Bowser. And that was not part of the trailer that we had seen before. And I think if we had seen that, because that was the first trailer, right? That was our first look at the Mario movie. And I think if we had seen that, you and I would have been like, uh-oh. Yeah, exactly. So at the beginning of this movie, I had an uh-oh moment.
I did too, because it actually reminded me a little bit of Suicide Squad.
Sure.
Like the first one where it's just like, oh my gosh, like they use, because that clip has been in like movie trailers. It's like that song has been in movie trailers like all over the place since Kill Bill. And they use it for maybe like 5 or 10 seconds.
Yeah.
It is really just to underscore a very, very brief part of the movie, and the fact that like they chose it and like instead of just writing score for it,
it's very was, like, very confusing.
Very like red flag.
Well, and can I just talk about my because obviously the licensed music here bugged me because we've never had a licensed song in a Mario game before, right? Like that's part of what makes it not feel like a Nintendo product to me. But just the score itself and why the score doesn't work for me is, there's all of this like kind of intermingling of like sort of standard movie orchestral scoring with the Koji Kondo themes and like really pulling out the strongest Mario themes when the action is at its most intense. But the problem with that is that the Koji Kondo Mario themes are not action movie score beats, right? Like they are fun, you're running and jumping, and like there's no danger to a Koji Kondo score, but he's deploying it at moments where the characters are in mortal peril and like struggling to survive. Like there is such a disconnect when they finally drop a Mario theme as Mario and Donkey Kong are like racing up to Bowser, where it's just like it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit the action.
I liked the kind of like the orchestrations or like remixes that they did over the end credits.
Yeah.
Like I like a lot of, I totally hear what you're saying, and I think that's a really good point. I like a lot of the incidental orchestrations of the Mario themes in isolation, but I agree that I don't know that they really I don't know that they really worked in the context of the movie.
Yeah. Well, and you know, it's again, and just always all of this, right, is that like part of what makes Mario work so well is that it just as a concept, is that it is all wrapped around this idea of like interactivity and play, and you know, that you're going to be experiencing this for hours and hours, and you control the speed of the drama and all of that. And movies are so prescriptive, and so they are so much more in control than you are. And when it just like goes to like a little ragtime theme during an action sequence, you're like, okay, well that doesn't. You're not speaking this language, right? You're speaking this other language, but that's not what the movie isn't. Video game.
Yeah. I feel like just overall, like I said at the beginning, I don't think that I don't think that this is like a terrible movie. The audience, like a lot of people in the audience, seem to really enjoy it. I can absolutely understand like why like people would have a good time with it.
Yeah.
I think I was just really surprised that it was not more and maybe my expectations could have been totally off. Like I said, I don't know Miyamoto. I don't know what movies he likes. I don't know what he thinks is funny. You know, like but I was just surprised by the lack of heart. And I think like the animated movies are really just like the movies and stories that I like are like big hearted.
Yeah.
And I was really surprised that this movie, I didn't even feel like it really like went like was interested in doing that, and that really surprised me and disappointed me.
Yeah,
but I don't think it's a bad movie.
I think it's so interesting to pair this movie with Dungeons and Dragons, which has, you know, like if you look at D&D and you look at, you know, Mario, they're both properties that started around the same time, right? Like D&D is late 70s and Mario is early 80s, and you know, they're both from places that are where like the story isn't really an inherent part of the product itself. You develop your own stories in D&D. You develop your own stories in Super Mario Brothers or in video games in general. And where Mario kept this sort of like ironic distance with this movie, D&D, Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, was so sincere. And there was conflict between our main heroes. There's like the main villain was once one of their friends, and like, you know, there's a moment at the end of Dungeons and Dragons where all the heroes are fighting the red wizard at the same time, and it feels like Avengers, you know, that like, you know how they all move differently, and it's awesome to watch them team up, and the camera swoops around them, and it's rad. At the end of the Super Mario Brothers movie, Mario and Luigi, who we've never seen fight before, never, have touched a superstar and are laying waste to Bowser, and you don't feel anything. And like, is it too much for me to want the Super Mario Brothers movie to make me feel something? I guess is the fundamental question here.
Right. Yeah. And if the answer is, I guess what it comes down to is, in my opinion, if your answer to that question is yes, then this movie is disappointing. If your answer to this is no, like that is not important to you, I think you'll have a great time.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's totally possible to have a great time. This felt like a long 82 minutes to me.
I don't think I'll ever watch it again, which is kind of a bummer for me to say for, like, you know, the first of what I'm assuming is going to be a lot of these collaborations with Illumination, you know? So,
let's talk post-credit sequences. There were two, right?
Yeah.
What was the first one? I can't remember it now.
Bowser singing his like song at the piano again.
That's right. And it was just a fun little like music video, basically of that. Very cute. And then the like post all the way at the end, post credit sequence. What we haven't even really talked about that Bowser and his army get sucked into the real world at the end. And I guess among them was a Yoshi egg. So there's a Yoshi egg in the sewers under Brooklyn.
Because you know when Toad and Mario are traveling from wherever they were to the mushroom, like to Peach's castle.
Yeah,
we do see like a herd of Yoshi in the background.
We do see Yoshis, yes,
but otherwise not featured in the movie at all. So yes, there is like that tease at the very end.
Well, so that actually because we had seen Yoshis earlier in the movie. Seeing the egg at the end, I was like, okay, like what? Okay, what's?
I guess the problem is
what's
that
your
they'll
point?
Talk to each other.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So I guess that's it. Like, are we teasing up a Yoshi movie? Are we just teasing up a Super Mario World the movie? The Super Mario World movie?
Well, you know, there have been really persistent rumors for quite a while now that Donkey Kong is the next big he's getting a spin-off, whether that's a movie or something on like a Netflix animated series or something. One thing I will note is that the Donkey Kong, and this is just the theme park nerd in me, so like the Kong land, like where the kingdom where they are, and like their big like kind of like temple,
the Jungle Kingdom,
and like the temple that they have looks identical to what is being built at Universal Studios Japan as like their first expansion to Super Nintendo World there, and is also being built at Universal's Epic Universe, which is their new theme park that'll open in 2025 in Orlando. And that is supposed to be like a roller coaster, like a minecart roller coaster, but it looks identical. So there's that connection there, I guess.
Yeah, and like we see Mario and Luigi drinking out of Mario and Luigi mugs that you can buy at the Universal Park store.
It just makes me wonder, like, how this movie, if it is as successful as it seems like it's poised to be, how this will begin to affect other Nintendo properties.
Yeah, totally.
Like, do we get does Mario's voice change to be more like Chris Pratt? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like where
which I gotta say, I didn't mind Pratt's performance here at all.
No, I didn't either. I completely agree. I didn't think about it at all.
Yeah. Which I think is exactly what you want, right? Yeah. Like you just want to not hate it, and I didn't hate it. It's funny because it sounded like we were wrapping up, and then I realized we hadn't talked really about the Kongs or like that part of the story at all. I liked Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong. Like I thought he did a pretty good job, made that character like kind of affable and fun. But yeah, I thought it was super weird when Mario is flirting with Peach, and then like this is the worst. It's like the flirting was fine and cute, right? And like I like the characters having a sincere moment together, but that only happens so that Donkey Kong can sidle up beside them and be like, "Was that you flirting, man? That's so bad." And then Mario being like, "Oh man," and Donkey Kong then just like. Be like, oh my bad. Like,
yeah, there.
He just backs off entirely.
I wish I could remember. Yeah, exactly what the his when he backs off, he says something, and then they cut right afterwards, and it feels like a very awkward cut. It feels like a joke with no punchline.
Yeah, exactly.
But Mario, and I know we were wrapping up. It was such a good bow, but Mario and
we'll find another bow.
Yeah, Mario and Donkey Kong. Their relationship is another example of like a pseudo relationship where they're kind of checking the storytelling boxes, but all of it is so insincere.
Yeah, like, oh, your father is disappointed in you, my father is disappointed in me, and it's like, was Cranky disappointed in Donkey Kong?
No, I guess he like this movie. There's so much like tell don't show.
Yeah.
As their way of like storytelling, where because like yes, Mario and Donkey Kong theoretically. You can say they connect over the fact that their fathers are disappointed in them. And yet, there's no moment that shows that connection. There is them like saying basically those words to each other, and then the next time we see them, they're friends.
Yes.
There's no there's no growth. There's no, like there's
no one can grow in this movie.
There's no emotional connection between any characters.
Yeah.
They say things that you're like, yeah, I guess technically, like that counts, but you don't feel anything.
It's the old robot devil watching Fry's opera in that episode of Futurama where he says, "You can't just have your characters say how they feel. That makes me feel angry." So that's the Super Mario Brothers movie. Mark, is there anything we missed? Anything you want to loop back around to? I just want to briefly bring up Spike. It's such an odd inclusion, and Sebastian Maniscalco. We've seen the trailer now for like his movie with Robert De Niro between the last two movies we've seen, which I didn't know who this guy was before.
Right.
And now it's just like, no, the Mario movie is coming out. Get Maniscalco.
Yeah, when we saw Dungeons and Dragons, there was a trailer for this movie that he has with Robert De Niro, and I turned to you and I was like, "Is that the? It can't, because is that the guy from like we had a news?"
Yes, we read his name. He was the guy that was like, "Yeah, I don't know, I play their boss or something."
Yeah, on like the Joe Rogan show or something like that. Yeah, man,
it's just weird. Like, will that be a presence? Will any of these characters that get introduced here be seen elsewhere in Mario stuff? Like, it's
like how this affects how the success or supposed success or assumed success of this movie affects what Nintendo does. And I mean, based on my reaction to it, I hope not at all. I hope they remain separate universes, but
yeah, I do.
You gotta wonder.
Yeah, you definitely do. Well, and like you said, there will be other movies, other TV shows, and I don't know. I just hope that there's more of an opportunity for like different filmmakers and storytellers to like get their hands on this and like tell a story that they want to tell. Just because it doesn't seem like there was a story that anyone wanted to tell here. It was just putting the Mario stuff on screen, which is its own value. Okay, Mark, we're just running around in circles now, so let's close this out. But of course, we would love to hear about everyone else's experiences with the Super Mario Brothers movie. So you can get in our Discord, email us Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. We will be abstaining from spoilers, although if you've reached this point in the podcast, that ship has sailed. But we are abstaining from spoilers in the Discord until the end of the weekend. Or you can just email us directly, Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. And let us know what you thought of the movie, if any of what we said rings true or rings false or just rings too harsh. Let us know. Thank you to our 16-bit patron, Connor McCabe. We appreciate everything you do, Connor. Anthony DeLuca made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers saying thank you for listening. And get the popcorn tin.